Hello everybody and welcome to the next tutorial, tutorial 4 in our exploration of Google Docs. The assignment will look something like this, and the link should take you straight to the tutorial. The video that you are watching right now will be right here. And then we're going to build a newsletter. So this is going to have like pictures, text graphics, columns, and a couple of other cool little, and word art. A couple cool little features that you can play with Google Docs. The start files are here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open all three of these images in separate tabs. So they're up here. This is based on a flyer that I created for the quadcopter challenge last year. It should be kind of interesting. So I'm going to open up the start file here. So this is an actual event that we did. We were not able to compete because, COVID. But on here, you won't be able to edit it. So you'll want to go and make a copy and then copy it to your ITECH folder. I'm just going to call it newsletter and hit OK. And then close the other one because we can't do anything with that one anyway. And I'm going to move the tutorial itself over here so that I can read it. Okay, so to start, kind of give a look over. This is the content, and this is not a bad idea when you're doing any kind of project like this, is to create all the content first so that when it comes to formatting it, you can just kind of like make it look how you want. So content first, and then do your typesetting, your publishing part aspect of it. So the first thing we want to do is select the first line of text, the title. We're going to make this into a really big header that will stand out and spark interest. So we're going to go up into interest or insert, and then go to drawing, and then hit new. So what we're going to create is something called word art. So you hit new, and since we highlighted that text, the word art that we create is just going to replace it. So you go to actions, and we're going to create word art in this drawing canvas kind of thing. So you can actually like draw pictures and stuff like that and insert them. It's kind of fun. But we're going to do word art, which gives you a little text box, and we're going to type in it quadcopter competition, I believe is the word. Competition. And then hit enter, and then it'll create our initial word art. Now, you can do a bunch of different things with this. You can change the colors of the border, because notice how it's like a bordered with a fill color. Each of the letters is like that. You can actually change the font too, but I'd leave it as Arial for now. Change the fill color and the border color to whatever you like, but do this. Use a lighter color in the fill and a darker color for the border. So something like that. And then when you hit save and close, it will appear magically as the first line of text in your document, and it'll look cool. It gives it kind of a neat little visual appeal that will look nice when you print it off, ideally in color. Now, next thing we want to do is take this next line here, and we'll give it some visual interest as well. Right here are our quick styles, and in this menu you have all sorts of different options for different kinds of styles. We're not going to create a title. We're going to make this into a subtitle, and then we're going to center it. So that's right here. It's a little bit big, so let's shrink it down to 12, and it'll still have the nice italic look to it, but it won't be quite so big. And it's still kind of an off-white gray color too, so that makes it more visually distinct. Next thing I want to do is add columns. We want to split this text into 2 columns going down the page. So put the insertion point right before the W. The first thing we want to do is create a section break, because if we try to make this into columns, it's going to want to put these pieces into a column as well, and we don't want that. We want those to stay where they are and not move. So we put the insertion point just before the first W here, and then we go to insert, and then we go to break, and we want to do a continuous section break. So this is the tool we want. What this will do is create a section break so that when we create columns of the rest of the text, it won't affect everything before that break. So when you click it, You'll notice a little extra space appears here, but otherwise there's no visual change. Now, when we format it, go to Format and go to Columns, you can split the whole thing into columns and it won't affect everything above it. So, the next thing I want to do is balance the two columns. So right now everything is kind of unbalanced. You have way more text in the left column than you do in the right. And I mean, if you have the same amount of text, if you have enough text to fill the whole page, then there won't be a balance issue. But since this doesn't fill the whole page, we need to balance it. And I think where we're going to put our column break is right here before when. So you have this bolded word when. We'll go to Insert, and again down to Break, and insert a column break there. And that will push everything after that onto the other column. So next, now we want to add some visual interest stuff, make things more readable. So right down here, I think these two paragraphs actually make better bullet points. So we'll break those up into kind of a list. So we'll select these two paragraphs right here and click on Bullet List, and that will make it into information that can be read as two discrete little pieces of information. Visually, it sets things off. It makes things look more logical, cleaner, and it enhances readability. Okay, now we're going to have some fun. We're going to use our Word Art tool again to create a drop cap. Now in Microsoft Word, there's just a button that does this, but we're going to have to do it manually. So you want to click to the left of the W and highlight just the letter W. So what a drop cap is like, those old manuscripts from like, I don't know, a long, long time ago where they would have the first letter of the page look all decorated and pretty. We're going to do something kind of like that, but a little bit more of a modern take on that. We're just going to make this W a lot larger than the rest of it. Now you could just go, make it big, but this is going to set off things like this, make an extra space here, make an extra space here, and it doesn't look right. So instead what we're going to do is highlight that W, go to Insert, and go to Drawing again, and click New. So we're going to basically do the same thing. We're going to create a word art. So Actions, Word Art, and just make a capital W, hit Enter, and that'll create our W. The one thing we want to do is make it black. So let's just fill everything with black. Fill and outline should be black, and then because it's just going to be the same kind of letter, and then hit Save and Close. So this makes a really large W still, but it doesn't create that extra space under this line. So far this is a better option, but it's still too big. So let's do two things. One, we want the text to wrap around the W. So we hit Wrap Text, and notice how the text shoots up here. And then we want to drop the margin to nothing. We don't want a margin. We don't want any space around it. We want everything to smush up to it. And now we want to grab the corner handle and start pulling up until it's probably 2 lines tall. So right about there. So it takes up 2 lines, and now you have that W that looks like it's called a drop cap, where it kind of bleeds into the next line and makes the text look a little bit more interesting. I mean, you can take this W and move it around in the text, but we don't want to do that, obviously. We want it to just look like this. It actually becomes kind of an image. So next thing we want to do is insert some images. Now, if you recall, at the beginning of the tutorial, I opened the 3 images that we're going to insert into 3 new tabs. So the first one is this picture of a drone, a quadcopter drone. So we just right-click on the drone picture and hit Copy Image to extract it into your system's clipboard. So right now your system has a copy of all that image data in its clipboard, and we can put it wherever we want. And we're going to put it somewhere in the first line of text. So just click somewhere in that first line of text here, and then hit Edit and Paste, or hit Control and then V on your keyboard. Obviously this is bad. This is really messing up our documents. This is the thing about images in word processors, is they have a tendency to make everything go crazy, and this is why people complain about Microsoft Word and Google Docs, is that, oh, I inserted an image and then it threw all my formatting off. Well, that's partly because people aren't using them right. The default behavior of images is to be inline, and there's very rarely in the last tutorial we did have an inline image, but that was only because we created a specific line for it to be on. Now, the vast majority of the time, you want the text to wrap around it. So we'll hit Wrap Text, we'll drop the margin a little bit to like 1/16 of an inch. And notice how the text is already better, but it's still kind of pushing things off a bit. It's just because the image is too big. So we'll make it smaller. We'll pop it up into this top corner here. Probably right about there. Yeah, it doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be there to cause interest. Now, one thing when you're moving it, you'll notice that these little red lines will periodically appear. Try to get it in the top right corner of this column. You'll see these two lines appear. Those are our guides that are going to say where the image is located. And so that's a perfect spot for it. Nicely aligned with the right edge of that column and the top of that column. The next image we want is, we're going to put one right here. So we got this picture of some soldering. So I have these open in separate tabs. This picture of someone soldering something, we'll just right click on it, copy image again, click after the last character on this screen, and then hit Control V for paste, or edit and paste. You could leave this just the way it is. It looks okay. I'm going to shrink it up just a tiny bit, turn on word wrap, and then move it so that it's centered, so that you see that center line, that center guide appear in the middle of it, and then drop it so that it's centered in the column. It's a little bit small. It's a little bit. Stop it. It's a little bit smaller than it was before. I think I messed it up with. There we go. I moved it out of its frame. There we go. Perfect. So that's about where we want it. And see, even I make mistakes. Tiny mistakes sometimes. So the next thing we want is this floral motif from our LLTC website. If you copy that image, this one's going to be a little bit trickier, but not too bad to get it positioned where you want. Honestly, we can paste it wherever we want, but it's going to come out really small. So the first thing I want to do is make sure it's on wrap text. That means I can position it wherever I want. And then I want to start moving it down to the middle of the page and at the bottom. And then we want to make it bigger. Let's get it right there. So I got the two guides, the center guide and then the bottom guide, showing that it's aligned with the bottom of the page and the center of the page. And that's it. I'll zoom out so you can see the final product. You've got your word art at the top, a drop cap here, two images in the text, and then one kind of at the bottom showing the kind of the branding. And this makes for a nice little newsletter that you can post around campus, or I did post around campus, something like this. So go ahead and turn that in on Canvas, and we'll see you next time.